This evening, I wanted to share with our activists and followers what I believe to be the more notable accomplishments of the past year and drop some hints about what you might expect from our team in 2026. But before I get into all of that, I want to take a moment and express my gratitude to all those who have donated their time and effort and helped us in both small and large ways to move the ball forward on pushing back against these awful globalist, neoliberal, and neocon narratives that for decades have pushed this movement of people, capital, and goods across international borders for the sole purpose of maximizing profit, and in the process, beggaring working people around the globe, especially here in the United States. So again, thank you for your support. I also want to thank those who donated money to our organization. Guys, without your generous support, not only would we not have racked up the impressive accomplishments that we did in 2025, we would not have been able to keep the lights on. In 2025, we left everything, and I mean everything, on the field. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, looking back a year, we entered 2025 hotly engaged in what I like to dub as the great H-1B visa Christmas kerfuffle. With a nice boost we got from Laura Loomer, our 12:32 a.m. Christmas Eve 2024 ex-post set off a 14-day social media conflagration that enveloped the mainstream media in a debate on the H-1B visa and how it was being used to displace American white-collar and professional workers. I mean, it was just amazing. One of our activists who was posting to Truth Social for us told me he had not slept in 3 days. I mean, it was an amazing battle. And at the end of those 14 days, Elon had embarrassed himself. The grip of the tech bros on the administration had been weakened. Characters like Vivek Ramaswamy had irreparably immolated their political careers. And the H-1B visa, along with a host of other employment visas and work authorization programs, became topics openly discussed by the public. Over the past year, we effectively engaged millions of people on a variety of immigration and America First topics. I would like to think this was due to the high trust our followers place in the information we post, as well as the integrity with which we pursue our mission. Now, if I had to pick one thing that I am most proud of for 2025, it would be what took place on November 10th when 31 tech worker activists in teams from Arizona, Texas, Washington State, North Carolina, Virginia, California, Tennessee, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Maryland walked the halls of Congress and met with the staffers of 52 congressmen and senators. Interestingly, 21 of those meetings were with Democrats, 31 were with Republicans. So it was definitely a bipartisan push, and it demonstrated there is interest on both sides of the political aisle in hearing from their constituents on this important matter. Moreover, I don't think it was a coincidence that not long after our activists met with Arizona Senators Ruben Gallego and Mark Kelly and Congressman Ellie Crane's staffers, that Senator Gallego sent a letter to USCIS and Department of Labor demanding action be taken to curb the abuses being visited on American workers by the H-1B visa program. During the lunch that day on November 10th, in a speech to our activists, Eric Sell, the acting Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the United States Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, who oversees the division's Immigrant and Employee Rights section, stated, and I quote, "I want to make that absolutely clear. One of the hottest topics in Washington, D.C. right now is the discussion of much-needed reform of our nation's visa system. And I say much-needed reform because pretty much every meeting I go to on the issue of visa holders and workforce development, this issue comes up and everyone has a negative reaction to it," unquote. I mean, just amazing what we've been able to do and have it resonate on Main Street and across the corridors of power. And it tells me the hard work that we've been doing day in and day out since we launched this ad campaign on the Bay Area Rapid Transit in 2018 is paying off. We have made and continue to make a difference. And frankly, we shaped and continue to shape the debate. You know, when I think back of that ad campaign, we put some 200 posters on 200 trains and covered up 2 BART stations. I can't help but chuckle when I think of the lamentation of a left-wing journalist who said to me, and I quote, "That ad of yours was like rubbing steel wool on an open wound," unquote. You can't make stuff like this up. We also began an initiative that brought our message to college campuses. Late in the year, we spoke to 2 College Republican of America chapters, or College Republicans of America chapters at Penn State and the University of Pittsburgh. These young people are amazing because they know full well, better than most, just how bad the immigration practices and policies of the globalists have been and have screwed them over. Yet, despite that, there is so much fight in them. I'm pleased to report, as bad as things are, these are just the people who are going to save the Republic. They will, I believe, prove to be the 21st century's greatest generation. Now, in support of that campus tour, we put together cutting-edge research on topics such as career prospects for recent engineering and computer science graduates. And in 2025, we had the opportunity to lecture on several occasions to the fellows in the American Moment program. We are in our 4th or 5th year of working with this fine group of motivated and highly effective young people. And I couldn't be more proud of all they accomplished since coming to Washington, D.C. Our landmark report on the history of the H-1B visa was published in the winter edition of the American Affairs Journal. It was titled "The Rise and Fall of the H-1B Visa." Now, the title is appropriate because I believe that visa program is short for the door, and it will end probably sooner than most of us think. In the spring, we met with newly installed appointees at the Department of Labor and responded to several of their information requests for outlining steps that the agency could do to curb employment visa abuses. Let's just hope that something good comes of it all. We also met with officials at the Department of Commerce. Early in the year, working with the Conservative Partnership Institute and several other groups, we hosted a day-long immigration school for Hill staffers. Recently, I did a panel sponsored by Heritage Foundation and discussed the impact of the H-1B visa on our recent college graduates. We also had the privilege of assisting senators and congressmen with policy that has wound its way into several bills that have either been introduced or are soon to be introduced in the coming year. Our work with Congress has been bipartisan. For instance, we took advantage of having Professor Hal Salzman of Rutgers University in D.C. one day and had what ended up being an hour-long conversation with California Congressman Ro Khanna. And we discussed employment visas and the labor market. We have been consistently in the social media and mainstream media spotlight, and I believe deservedly so. On X, our at US Tech Workers and at P4Org and at IFSPP have received over 54 million views and almost 4 million engagements. And combined, they have an average engagement rate of 6%, which is just stellar. Now, this is made even more amazing when you consider we have probably less than 70,000 people that follow us. And so it's like when we throw a pebble into a pond, the ripples it creates go far and wide. More than once, we've been able to influence the course of events with posts that seek to enlighten as opposed to simply bait and get clicks. I had over 35 interviews with and mentions in outlets such as Newsweek, Bloomberg Law, Epoch Times, The American Conservative, and many others. But the one that stands out and stands head and shoulders above them all was an article in the New York Times written by Noam Scheiber. And it was interesting, Professor Norm Matloff's reaction to it was, he stated, and I quote, "Absolutely shocking article, not shocking for the content, which is accurate, but shocking that the New York Times would run with it," unquote. That article, to me, I believe it's quite possible. This is the first time in a couple decades the New York Times wrote an article favorable to a group in the immigration restrictionist movement. And I'm hoping it will be the first of many. We also contributed public comments to agency rule change proposals on topics that included STEM OPT, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, optional practical training, and the H-1B visa lottery system. Now, with that, I'm going to end the recap portion of my New Year's Eve rant and go now to talk about 2026. And in 2026, much of our sparse human and financial resources will go into on-world, on-ground strategies. For instance, I mentioned earlier, we visited 2 college campuses in 2025. Our goal is to visit at least 6 more and assist with ground campaigns that will frustrate STEM OPT work authorization programs for foreign students that are actually pulling out the bottom rung of the career ladder for our IT professionals. We currently have tech worker chapters with great leaders in North Carolina and New Hampshire. Our goal is to add chapters in Washington, Florida, and Texas by July of 2026. We have a core group of 31 activists, people who possess the courage, dedication, and means to join us in DC. I believe we can grow this group tenfold in the coming year. We will be forming an advisory board of people who have donated more than $1,000 to the Institute. I'm calling this the 1K Club. It's a truly impressive lot, and I'm eager to receive their wise counsel on a regular basis. We'll be on the lookout for more opportunities to bring lawsuits. We are actually laying the groundwork for 2 lawsuits that I believe have the potential to hit hard and shape legislation at the state and federal levels. Now, how to best phrase all this? We've had a great run with our U.S. Tech Workers X platform, but we will be rolling it under the Institute for Sound Public Policy social media platforms in the coming months. I had wanted to do this back in 2023, but the timing just never seemed to be right. I'm doing this because this is going to help us from a branding perspective. In the war against globalization, immigration is the limb of a large tree, and employment visas are a branch of that limb. To be ultimately successful, we will need to step back and strike at the trunk of the tree as well as the branches. There's no shortage of savvy influencers out there, and much of the heavy lifting with regard to raising public awareness on the H-1B visa was accomplished between Christmas of 2024 and today. Moreover, in the past 2 years, a number of really excellent content creators have risen up who echo our sentiments and our actions on employment visas. And we're going to be making it a point to do more to support their efforts in the coming year. We will double our efforts in assisting electeds and agency heads with legislation, rulemaking, and policy. You know, figuratively speaking, we have a seat at a table, and we're kind of situated in the middle of it. And this gives us the ability to work with many of the key stakeholders in and outside this movement. And I want to fully exploit that in the coming year. And at this point, I'm going to wind things down by saying, you know, if anyone thinks 2025 was rough and turbulent, you ain't seen nothing yet. I expect the next year, especially the next 6 months, to be volatile. The economic and geopolitical headwinds coming at this administration will be severe and hitting it from all angles. Now, for our team to be effective and nudge this administration in the right direction and counter the influence of globalist forces and tech bros, it's no longer enough to be an influencer. Simply get views and or create content. Our priority will be for real-world action. To many, they think in terms of how many clicks they got, rather than how many conversations did they have with lawmakers, and if not lawmakers, how many conversations did they have with other like-minded people, helping them organize in their congressional districts. You know, dear listener, we are far closer to winning and ending the H-1B visa than you might expect. And all we have to do is push in the right direction and do the right things over the coming year. And you might say, wow, how do you know that? Tell me. Well, to paraphrase Gandhi, and he said, first they ignore you, and then they laugh at you. And now, to quote Elon Musk, then they tell you, and I quote here, take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend, unquote. Now Gandhi said, and then they fight you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, and then you win. And yes, Elon, we won that one. But the war is still raging. It is do or die in 2026. You know, 2026 is the Chinese Lunar New Year, and it is the year of the fire horse. Well, we're going to ride that horse, and we're going to ride it to victory. And the rougher the ride, the better. And it's lost to history who said the following quote, but obviously they're a very wise person. And they said, wisdom is knowing what to do next, skill is knowing how to do it, and virtue is doing it. So, with wisdom, skill, and virtue, we move boldly into 2026. And with that, I wish you and yours a happy and prosperous new year. God bless you all.